Good afternoon, family, and welcome to episode 20 of Critical Sense Making Sessions, facilitated by yours truly, Revolutionary Rika. Today's episode topic is coping with the crisis. Today's guest is Pastor H.L. Davis II. He is a San Francisco native by way of Detroit, who is passionate about the Lord, preaching, and horses. PD, tell us a little bit more about who you are and choose one word to describe how you're showing up.
Well, today I'm showing up tired because we just got out of church and I just got back from Detroit visiting family. So I'm a little pooped, but I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
All right. Well, thank you again for agreeing to be on our podcast, and we'll jump right into our icebreaker question.
Okay.
How do you practice self-care?
Self-care, I try to, first of all, pray a lot. And then personally, not only spiritually, that helps me, but then I try to do self-care with drinking a lot of water, because a lot of times we're just stuck up in this house because of dealing with the invisible enemy and fighting, this coping with the crisis. That's what we're doing, and fighting in this pandemic. So I try my best to eat a little healthier in this particular period we're going through in our land and in our time.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So we're going to jump right into our first set of questions. And that first question is, tell me a little bit about life growing up in Detroit.
Oh my God. Life growing up in Detroit was great and rough. Let me say it again, great and rough. It was great because of the era I lived in, which was one of the greatest eras in history that I believe, because of the Detroit Lions, the Tigers, and the Pistons, but most of all because of Motown. You do remember Motown and the Motown Review, where we could hear everybody that sung for Motown for $3 during Christmas time. So it was great, and elementary school was exciting, but junior high school was an eye-opener because as you grow up into your adolescent years, it's a great time to be in a place called Detroit.
Thank you. So thinking back on your childhood, how did you handle the crises that you faced?
Well, during that time, I dealt with crisis in several ways. One, once again, prayer, because we were always in church. My father was a pastor, but then I had a lot of family. And I had 3 sisters, and they had a lot of boyfriends, and then a lot of boyfriends had a lot of brothers. So I had a lot of help. So any personal crises, I would go to family and friends to deal with it.
And so how did your village equip you with coping strategies?
Well, they would help me cope by reminding me that if I didn't do right with situations, they would tell my family that takes a village to raise a child. It would take 3 or 4 whippings to get you straight. So I help dealing with strategies by knowing that if I didn't do right, it would get back to my mama and my father. So that would help me in most instances.
And so how did your school experiences prepare you for managing challenges?
We had school had especially in junior high school, I had a lot of teachers that were instrumental in my life in making sure you stayed on the right path. They felt that education was important, especially in the city of Detroit, where you had so much going on and everybody was going toward working in the car industry. They wanted us to strive for higher heights. And so that helped me manage some of the challenges I had and which direction of life I would try to go and take.
Okay. And so I'm going to move us into our second set of questions. And the first one is, what led you to your career field?
I was called. The Lord called me before I ran from my calling for a while, but he called me before I left Detroit, and my father got called to a church here in San Francisco. And before we came, the Lord called me. But I put on my running shoes and started to run a little while, trying to find myself before I found my calling.
Thank you for sharing that. And so what strategies did you employ to confront your professional challenges in the ministry?
Well, one is you got to pray a lot, you got to study a lot, and you got to get some schooling in your head. You got to go to somebody that can help you with some of your biblical challenges along this road. Because I found out that a lot of time you had to put on so many different hats, like the one I got on today. It's you find yourself not only being a pastor, you find yourself professionally trying to be a counselor. And then sometimes people would try to push you into being a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And I used to have to try to tell everybody, I can give you some spiritual answers, but some things you need some other professional help to help you. It may not be spiritual at this particular time.
Okay, thank you. And so how did you educate and equip others on how to overcome adversity?
Always reminding them to stay studied up in the word. The word will help keep you when you're going through. Y'all, those who read the Bible always have heard, thy word have I hid in my heart. The reason you hide it in your heart is because you're going to be confronted on several different levels and issues, personally and spiritually, but you need a word that will keep you and carry you even in the times of trouble.
Thank you.
You're welcome, baby.
So as we move into the third set of questions, in your opinion, what has been the biggest challenge of 2020?
Trying to keep us all together, trying to keep the church together, trying to keep my sanity so I can help everybody else keep their own sanity. That has been my biggest challenge of 2020, trying to make sure that we stay together,
And so how did you prepare your congregation to cope with the crisis?
Always keeping them with a song in their hearts and their lips and a word that they can carry through the week, something that is relevant and prevalent to what we're going through. And so I try and ask God to help lead me with sermons that will help deal with the issues we're going through as we go through this fighting the invisible enemy together.
Mm-hmm. And what lessons can we learn from the crisis of 2020?
Well, if I can be personal and real and transparent for a moment, I'll tell you, I've learned that I can do without a lot of things that I thought I couldn't do without. I cannot go a lot of places that right now I've learned I can't go, and I'm fine with it. I've learned to do without a lot of things that I thought I couldn't live without during this calamity.
Thank you. And so as I move us into our fourth set of questions, I would love for you to share anything you are doing to support others in coping with the crisis.
Oh my God, we do something almost every week. Not only do we have daily prayer, not only do we have Sunday service, not only do we have Wednesday night study of the word, word on Wednesday, Bible study, we also are part of the coalition of churches here in San Francisco, and we feed over 200 meals on Wednesdays, and we try to feed at least 20 families on every other Saturday. So we're part of a feeding program too, to try to help others to cope with the crisis mentally and physically by providing food and nourishment for them.
Okay, that's awesome. Have you taken any action to help others cope with the crisis?
Yeah, just trying to stay personally prayed up. Trying to keep I can't help nobody else if I'm not together. So I'm trying personally to stay biblically sound, biblically prayed up, talk to those who can help me to help others. while we're going through this. And we're trying to remind folk that we're not alone. That's part of what I want to do.
How do you advocate for the needs of the people?
Just say that's the thing we do on Wednesday. I fight for food. I fight for getting gift cards. I'm still fighting to get actually extra money from the coalition so that we could do more, because we have so many people. Because once we deal with trying to help our congregation, we can't forget the community. So there's people that I know that are in the community that say, Pastor, the next time I see you, can you help me also, that are not of our congregation? So I'm trying to do my best to help all who are involved in this problem that we have.
So my final question is, have you created any resources to counteract oppression?
Resources to counteract oppression? Well, the only thing I have done is really personal. I once again, I try to stay prayed up. That's the only thing, because you don't know when or which way the oppressors will come. So you have to be set on every avenue, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And if it get too bad, I got two of my cousins, I ain't gonna call their name, that will help me if you want to oppress me.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing out your wisdom, your expertise, your recommendations. I would like to highlight just a few of the pearls that I heard you say in our conversation. I heard you say we must pray and study without ceasing.
Yes.
The word will help keep you when you're going through. Keep a song on your heart and lips, and a word to carry you through the week. And then
Yes.
lastly, we can do without a lot of things that we thought we couldn't, except
Right.
you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that and coming on and sharing your experience. And so if you have one last word, tip, or piece of advice that you would like to share with the viewers, the last voice they hear will be yours.
Okay, well, great. The last thing I will say, and it has to do with our overall topic, and that is coping with the crisis. And I would want to leave them the verses and the sermon that led me to that particular subject, and it comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 12 through 23, but I won't read all of them, but this is how I cope with the crisis. And verse 16 says, first of all, verse 15 says, see that none render evil for evil. That's how you can help cope with the crisis. Unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves and to all men. How do you cope with the crisis? Here it is, really. Rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing, and in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. God bless.
Thank you.